The Spark in the Slumber, a motivational tale of ambition and laziness in the bustling city of Eldritch, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds like ambitious fingers reaching for the stars. Lived a young man named Elias. At 28, Elias was a paradox wrapped in a hoodoo dreamer, with the fire of 1,000 suns burning in his chest, yet chained to the couch by the heavy weights of laziness. His room was a chaotic shrine to his unfulfilled potential. Dog-eared books on quantum physics stacked beside half-eaten pizza boxes. A sleek laptop humming idly on the floor with tabs open to how to build a tech empire articles from 3 years ago and a vision board plastered to the wall. On it, faded magazine cutouts screamed his dreams: a sleek startup logo, a TED Talk stage, a private jet soaring over Emerald Islands. One day, he'd mutter to himself, scrolling through Instagram feeds of overnight successes, "I'll make it happen." Tomorrow, Elias's ambition wasn't quiet. It roared like a lion in his mind. He envisioned revolutionizing renewable energy with an app that gamified solar panel installations for households, turning eco-warriors into accidental millionaires. He'd sketch wild ideas in his notebook at 2 a.m., fueled by cheap coffee and the glow of his phone screen, only to wake up at noon, declare it not the right time, and binge-watch documentaries about inventors who just got lucky. His friends, a mix of wide-eyed entrepreneurs and jaded office drones, would tease him gently. "Elias, you're like a Ferrari with the parking brake on," his best friend, Mia, would say over lukewarm beers at their local dive bar. "All that horsepower and you're idling in the driveway." He'd laugh it off, but deep down, the words stung like salt in a fresh wound. He knew he was capable of greatness. The problem was, greatness required sweat, and Elias had a PhD in avoidance. One crisp autumn evening, as golden leaves danced outside his window like mocking confetti, fate decided to intervene. Elias had promised himself he'd start coding the prototype for his app this weekend. No excuses. But by Saturday noon, he was 3 episodes deep into a true crime series, his laptop gathering dust. A knock at the door jolted him upright. It was his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Harlow, a spry 72-year-old with silver hair tied in a nonsense bun and eyes that sparkled like polished sapphires. She clutched a worn leather journal in her gnarled hands, her face etched with a mix of sorrow and resolve. "Elias dear," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation, her voice steady as an old oak. "I found this in my attic while sorting through my late husband's things. He was like you, brilliant, ambitious, but so terribly lazy in his youth." She pressed the journal into his hands, its pages yellowed and crisp, smelling of aged paper and forgotten dreams. "Read it, and then, for heaven's sake, do something with that fire I see flickering in you." Curiosity piqued, Elias flipped open the journal that night, the true crime remote forgotten on the coffee table. The handwriting was bold, looping strokes that danced across the pages like they were too impatient to sit still. It belonged to Mr. Harlow, a man Elias had only known as the kindly widower who shared stories of World War II over fence chats. But these entries painted a different portrait, a young inventor in the 1950s, obsessed with creating a perpetual motion machine that could power homes forever without fossil fuels, a dream eerily similar to Elias's own solar app. The first entries brimmed with ambition. Today I sketched the blueprint, gears turning like the stars themselves. This will change the world, endless energy for all. But soon the tone shifted. Another day lost to the pub. The prototype sits untouched. What's wrong with me? The ideas flow, but my hands won't move. Pages turn to confessions of procrastination, skipped lab sessions for card games, brilliant equations abandoned for naps in the sun. Ambition is a cruel mistress, he wrote in a particularly raw entry. She whispers of glory, but laziness sings lullabies. I fear I'll die with my genius buried under a pile of somedays. Elias read on, his heart pounding. Midway through, the journal chronicled a breaking point. Mr. Harlow had entered a local invention contest, submitting half-baked sketches out of sheer desperation. He lost, spectacularly laughed off the stage by judges who called it a fanciful doodle crushed. He wandered the rainy streets that night, kicking puddles like a petulant child. But in a dingy cafe, nursing black coffee, he overheard two war veterans debating the future. Dreams don't build themselves, son, one grumbled. You gotta hammer 'em into shape, even when the hammer feels too heavy. That moment ignited something. The journal's entries exploded with action, rose at dawn first time in months. Assembled the core mechanism. Fingers blistered, but by God, it spun. Failures followed, gears jammed. Prototypes smoked, but so did triumphs. He iterated relentlessly, scavenging parts from junkyards at midnight. Testing in his cramped garage until neighbors complained of sparks and bangs. Laziness is a habit, he scrawled victoriously. Break it once, and the chains shatter. Ambition, that's the fuel. But effort is the engine. By the journal's end, Mr. Harlow's invention had evolved into a practical hydroelectric generator. Patented in 1962, it powered remote villages in Europe for decades, saving lives during blackouts. Yet, the final entry humbled Elias's success wasn't the patent or the praise. It was reclaiming my days from the thief of tomorrow. If you're reading this, stranger, don't wait for lightning to strike. Be the storm. Elias closed the journal as dawn crept through his blinds, tears blurring the ink. For the first time, laziness felt like a stranger in his own skinner. Lazy thief, just as Mr. Harlow had said. He glanced at his vision board, the dreams mocking him no longer. With trembling hands, he booted up his laptop. The screen's glow a beacon in the dim room. Code lines flowed haltingly at first, syntax errors mocking his rusty skills. But he persisted, fingers flying like they remembered the dance. Days blurred into weeks. Elias set brutal alarms for 6 a.m., trading Netflix for Notion notes. He joined online coding forums, enduring brutal feedback like this logic is asleep at the wheel, but revising until it purred. Mia noticed the change, dragging him to co-working spaces where the hum of productivity drowned out his old excuses. Setbacks hit harder, beta test crashed spectacularly. Investors ghosted his cold emails, but each failure echoed Mr. Harlow's words: "Effort is the engine." 6 months later, under a spotlight not unlike the one on Ilias's vision board, he stood on a makeshift stage at Eldridge's Tech Innovators Expo. The room buzzed with venture capitalists and fellow dreamers, the air thick with possibility. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elias began, his voice steady despite the butterflies rioting in his stomach. "Introducing Solara app that turns your rooftop into a revenue stream. Because ambition without action is just a pretty daydream." The demo went flawlessly. A simulated household dashboard flickered to life, showing solar yields gamified with badges, leaderboards, and real-time payouts. Cheers erupted as the first investor raised a hand. "We're in seed round $500,000. Elias's grin split wide, but the real victory pulsed quieter, deeper. The journal tucked in his pocket, a talisman of transformation. As the crowd swarmed him with business cards, Elias slipped outside for air. The city lights twinkled like approving stars. He thought of Mr. Harlow, of the lazy boy he'd been, and whispered to the night, "Thank you." From that day, Ilias's mantra became simple: ambition lights the path, effort paves it. And in the quiet moments of doubt, he'd remind himself, laziness may whisper sweet nothings, but persistence roars eternal. So, if you're ambitious but lazy, hear this: your dreams aren't waiting for perfect weather. They're forged in the grit of now. Pick up the hammer. Start smaller, single line of code, a single step. The empire awaits, not on the horizon of someday, but in the sweat of today. What will you build? The choice, as always, is yours.